Good morning, to all of you.
Morning.
It's indeed a pleasure to have you out this morning. What we would like to go ahead and do is have public comment. If there's any public comment can come forward at this point. Seeing that there's no public comment, we'll go right into instructional council update. Good morning. How are you doing?
Morning.
Yes, good, thank you. I'm Cindy Pack. I'm the school reform facilitator for the middle school K-8 division, and this year I have the pleasure of chairing the instructional council. And today I'm here to report to you that instructional council met in January 22nd, and the items that were discussed in our curriculum update. The curriculum team members did share there was continued professional development happening in the district. Specifically, February 6th, the middle school and high schools focused on the M-STEP assessment. The team reviewed the district curriculum guide. The instructional council team looked at the district curriculum guide, which has been updated and placed on the district website for high school students and families. The subcommittees that we have had no updates at this time. And then there was a review of a proposed new subcommittee. Annually, instructional council, by their bylaws, are obligated to consider the appointing of a subcommittee to review the assessment system in the district. The council did vote after a lengthy conversation and debate around that potential committee. We did vote not to go ahead and create that subcommittee. So we took a pass on that for this year. The principles of engineering, and that is principal with a P-L-E-S instead of an A-L-S. That proposed course came back to the council just for some additional edits as we had requested. And then we did take a time to have a conversation around various questions. And one of the topics that was discussed was the ongoing substitute teacher shortage in the district, because that does have an impact on the council because of the teachers that are on the council. There is a challenge with getting teachers to be able to attend, to provide them the opportunity because of the inability to cover their classrooms for that time that the council does meet, which is 1 p.m. to 3 o'clock. We discussed various reasons why the meeting is scheduled from 1 to 3, and really didn't come to any conclusion other than it is a barrier for teachers to be able to attend. The next meeting is later this week on Thursday, and we will follow up with reporting to you next month.
Question. I wasn't sure if any of the board members are privy to come to those meetings when you have them. Are we not privy to come?
My understanding, and I would have to defer to. Right, that was my last understanding, is that is considered a staff meeting, and so I'm sorry, but no.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Just,
Always can ask, right?
yep, just wanted
All
to find a door in.
No, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
John.
So in terms of the subcommittees, you decided not to have them, and the reason was?
Meaning the testing subcommittee?
Right.
The testing subcommittee, it was really felt after lots of conversation that really much of the testing in the system, specifically the one that teachers are most concerned about, is the MSEP and the state assessments.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't control that. That is something that is dictated to us from the state. And what we need to do is we need to learn more about that. I believe that I mentioned last month, we talked about possibly having a couple staff people from OIS come in and help us learn more about the assessment system that we do have in the district, and specifically around the state assessment. But it wasn't felt that it was a committee that would be able to contribute any new information
Okay.
to the work of instructional council.
So your next meeting is on the 19th?
It is.
And you're still meeting from 1 to 3?
We are still meeting from 1 to 3.
Have you thought about the possibility of changing those meetings to meet some of the teachers need to come?
There was a conversation about that. It was felt that having that time outside of the contractual time of teachers was not a way that some staff people would like to go. So that would be meaning having it after school. It was just decided that that was something that we would not choose to do at this time.
Okay.
All right.
And then how many teachers would have to be present at those meetings, or could it be rotation? Could it be?
It is currently 7 and 7, right? So 7 administrators, 7 teachers. Rotational base, we have not had that conversation, and it has not been done that way in the past. That's certainly a conversation that we could entertain as a suggestion, certainly.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Priority Schools update.
I'll go ahead and stay here for that. So I have a brief update to Priority Schools for you. At the Monday, February 2nd Board of Education meeting, Mrs. Mary Bowens, who is the current GRE president, reported to the board that there was an error in the Academic Achievement Committee minutes. And the minutes in question stated there was a letter of agreement between the GREA and GRPS regarding priority plans for newly identified schools, Kenosha and Coit. The minutes have since been corrected and reflect the revised language that Coit Creative Arts Academy and Kenosha elementary plans have been approved with contingencies. The signature pages need to be completed and an agreement with the GREA.
Good.
Right? And then next month I will return with our third quarterly reports for the
Great.
board. All right?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Museum School.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Chris Hanks. Thank you for inviting me to give an update on the museum school. I've been on the job for 4 weeks now, tomorrow, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind. As my first time before this committee, I thought I would make my remarks brief and I'll leave as much time for any questions that you might have. I was asked to give you a bit more about my background in relation to the position and an update on the school vision and where things stand. In your packet, I believe there are a few handouts that I provided from the museum school. I took my resume and boiled it down to a one-page document, one-page summary with my education background and professional experience. In relation to the museum school principal position, I would just like to emphasize with relation to my background that I interact or I participate in education from a variety of perspectives. I was a teacher in several subject areas and in GED instruction and a school principal before earning my PhD and becoming a researcher and higher ed instructor. But I'm also a parent. I've also served on the board of the Grand Rapids Child Discovery Center, which, as you know, is chartered by GRPS and has a good relationship with the district. And so I've worked in education from all of those perspectives, and I'm a parent of students in GRPS. So I'm really excited to be part of the museum school. What I noticed about this position was that in addition to the typical skill set of a school principal, which is fairly broad and intense, that this school, as a collaboration between so many entities, would require someone to navigate the nonprofit sector and the collaborative public-private partnership sector. And through my work on in other areas of education, I have a little experience in that regard. And also, I think that it's going to be really important in this position to both meet the expectations and standards of the district and the state, as well as preserve the innovative nature of the school. And my research in education policy is on school reform, partially on school reform, and the nature of successful school reform. And so I'm hoping that I can bring some of those skills and help the museum school be both a successful school within the system and a model of school reform and innovation. With regard to the school philosophy, I also prepared a one-page summary. There are several components that motivate the collaborative team that developed the concept of the museum school. In short, those are design thinking, place-based education, and public museum resources. As I come to this position, I'm familiar with each of those perspectives within education, but an expert in none of them. And what strikes me is that as principal of the school, in sort of synthesizing the various commitments and perspectives that our various partners bring to the project, my role will be to help those different ideals work together for the benefit of students. And what I find that they have in common is that all of those traditions value multiple perspectives, that every voice at the table is equal and is heard. That's critical to design thinking, and it's a core element of place-based education, which seeks to understand one's own community and environment. And so, as I'm sure you've heard folks on the collaborative team, I didn't invent this phrase, but I'm sure you've heard folks say, the city will be our classroom. And that's, I intend to make that not just a slogan, but a practical reality. We'll be out in the community as close to every day as we can manage from the school. What these perspectives also share is a view in education that goes back to at least 100 years, that students learn not just by absorbing information, not through a passive process, but through an active or interactive process. And so the hands-on resources of the museum will be a huge benefit in that regard. And that thinking and that learning is oriented toward solving problems. And again, each of these traditions emphasizes that. And so the design thinking process will guide us in taking a problem or a question, interacting through rigorous curriculum, but also leading students to develop their own ideas and practical solutions to meaningful problems. And because of the place-based emphasis, those will be problems or issues that face our community of Grand Rapids, West Michigan, and even the global community.
Those are part of your strategic planning?
Yes, so those aspirations are much of what guides the work we've been doing in the curriculum development process. So when I began, I identified the two most urgent priorities for me were to expand the personnel, so to look for the excellent teachers who share the commitments of the collaborative team and the district, and to fill out the curriculum so that we have meaningful, innovative curriculum. And so some of what I've been talking about has motivated that curriculum work.
And when I read part of your bio, I like the fact that you're talking about you had a communication team that would communicate with families and communicate with the curriculum as well. I think that's very important, and I really feel that it's important to really engage parents. So I know it sounds like you're planning on engaging parents.
We are. And so the communication team, when I first began, some of our work has been more publicly oriented to inform the public about the School Choice Expo, and we're having an open house at the museum this evening. But as we move forward, we need to really emphasize working with our families, helping them participate in the school. The flow of the school day is something we're also working on, but we intend and hope to have a portion of the school week, an hour of the week, in which there's a school-wide session, and that would also invite families and parents to participate in the life of the school.
And your partners are actively involved as well?
Partners are all actively involved on our curriculum team. We've got representatives from Grand Valley State University, Kendall College of Art and Design, the Public Museum, as well as the district. And the facilities team, all of those partners, plus the city of Grand Rapids and downtown GR Incorporated, are involved, and the communications team. The communications team at this time consists of representatives from the district, Kendall College of Art and Design, and the museum, Public Museum. So we've had great collaborative partnership.
Great. Yeah, I mean, we're excited, and obviously the broader community can apply to that.
Yes,
Right.
yes. The school will holds 85% of the seats for residents of GRPS. So potentially up to 15% could come from outside the district. The school participates in the application process along with the other theme schools in the district. But that application and an interview and agreement between families and the school are the only requirements.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sounds very exciting.
It's very exciting.
Leadership development process strategies.
Good morning, Pastor Moody, Reverend Matias.
Good morning.
Morning.
Superintendent. I believe you received a handout regarding our
Yes,
leadership
Yes, we have.
strategy.
Yes, we have.
So I'm going to just give you a high-level overview and, of course, welcome any questions. Our leadership, we are really excited about our leadership talent strategy. I think at least when I got here, we did not have this kind of comprehensive strategy in place. So it was exciting to work on it with my colleagues, the executive directors of schools, as well as other executive directors, and our assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. And we also had outside partners from the DeVos Foundation. And we were led by Richard Lemons, who is a national expert on adult learning and leadership development. He started as a teacher and really started the Harvard Education Change Leadership Group. So he brought a wealth of resources to us and did a lot of, he exposed us to a lot of national research, which was really exciting. And some of our members actually got to take trips to other districts and really see this in action. And we spoke to some national experts on the telephone. So it was almost a 6-month process to come to this. And like I say, we think we got something really good going on, and you just saw an example of one of the products of this process, Mr. Hanks, who went through this process and could probably tell you how rigorous it was, but we're excited about that. So I just want to go over just the framework and give you a little bit more meat to it. The leadership talent strategy framework, and of course in the middle of it, upon which we're really looking, is our competency-based definition for building leaders, which is effective at producing excellence and equitable student outcomes. So it's really all about our students and how leaders can effectuate positive change in their life and for them. So, and then around that circle are sort of the conditions and the things that have to happen and the conditions in which they have to happen in. And of course, we start with the recruitment and identification of talent and our pipeline development. We're beginning to use, in addition, you know, as I've talked to you all about a lot of the things that we're doing in terms of the teacher recruitment strategies, we're using very similar strategies for our leaders. And we're also, when we now get applications for a variety of jobs, we continue to kind of look across at what are those people, if they're not right for that position, are they right potentially for another position? But what I'm most excited about is that we are beginning, or in the early nascent stages of building an aspiring leaders program within the district, which means that we will try to grow our own talent because we think that people that have worked in the district bring a lot to it, and we know that some of our teachers, some of our assistant principals want to be head principals in the building, and we want to help them with all the skills that they need to be able to be prepared for the job. So that's the beginning part. And then we have a selection process, which is extremely rigorous. In fact, Richard Lemons told us that we are one of the leaders in the country with this process that we've had, that we've taken a lot of the best of a lot of programs. And on a high level, it starts with a phone interview where we really ask really good and pointed questions to try to filter it down to 2 to 3 to 4 candidates that we will really bring in for round 2. And we use the behavioral event interview, which is a wonderful process that really talks about, as I think I've told you before, the research indicates that your past performance is the best indication of your future performance. And so we really dig deeply into what people have done, and with really open-ended questions that really are very probative. And I think you really glean a lot of good information from the candidate. And then we make them do sort of we love it, a fun exercise, sort of a little task thing where we give you a snapshot, the day of the life of a principal, all the many things that come at a principal first thing in the morning, and how do they prioritize those things, and what would they do first, and it's a lot of very interesting competing priorities, and we like to see how people really think under fire. And you have to do it right there at the interview. You don't have any time to think about it, because that's the life of a principal. You don't have time to think about things. You just got to make good snap decisions.
Now, that's interesting, but now this is just a joke, so don't take me serious on this. It would be really good to make that a reality show. So that the public would have a good idea of what principals go through.
It would be, I tell you. It's a
violation, but a
yeah,
good idea.
yeah, exactly. And our third, and I think if you get through round 2, you go to round 3, and that's almost a full day. We spend a good portion of the morning at a tour of a school, and if the school is existing, you go to that school, and then there's a series of debriefing around what they saw. Then the candidate reviews actually a 10-minute snippet of teaching, and they have to give feedback to the teacher, and we do actually a role play with that. Some of our colleagues, especially to the right of me, are very good actors, and so they push back a lot, and so we like to see how the person would give feedback, because we know that's extremely important for teachers' growth. And then we give them feedback, so that we can determine how they accept feedback, because everyone has to be willing to grow. And then there's a writing component. You have to do 3 writings. One of them has to be done right then, and we give you 2 to take it home, but one of the writing samples has to be a data analysis. And those are all built, this whole concept is built around our leadership competencies, and as you all saw the one with the circles. And really what we're trying to do when we go through this process, we're trying to ferret out how people fit along the continuum of these leadership competencies. And then, we feel like if you meet these, then you have a really good chance of being successful. But we don't stop there. Once we hire you, we don't just we're trying not to just throw you out there and say, sink or swim. We're looking at now building a principal induction program that we had some principals on our group that put this together. And the feedback that they gave us is that they really, as a new principal, they really need some guidance. How do you navigate the system? What are some of the do's, the don'ts, et cetera? So we're really working on trying to put that together in a comprehensive way so that when someone comes in the district, they really get, they get the kind of feedback that they need and mentoring that they need, but also getting something that you can just kind of pull up and look at the moment. So of course we do talent development and career growth, which is professional development. And that happens quite a bit, and our executive directors lead that, and they do an awesome job. And every once in a while, I get to go before the principals and talk about all my favorite stuff, all the legal do's and don'ts. That's fun, and I've gotten some really good feedback from doing that. And then finally, it's our retention. And one of the things that the research told us was that just having what they call stay conversations with folks really has a big impact. And it just telling them how much you appreciate them and how much you really want them to be in the district. As you know, we're not the top in the leaders in terms of money. People that work here because they really are dedicated to our students. And every once in a while, you need to tell them that how much you appreciate them, and that seems to go a long way. And then we're also going to be trying to look at some ways of distinguishing in terms of compensation our highly effective principals, to give them, more impetus, because money does mean something. So these are some of the strategies that we're looking at.
No, when I was reading this, I was excited, but now that you were talking about it, even illuminates it even more. And I wrote down under your leadership talent strategy framework 2 important things that I thought was important as you were talking. One was the fact that what you did breaks down preconceptions. And then 2, it builds relationships with your principals and your staff who you're working with. So I think that's a great starting point for us to continue to build our district. People continue needing to get to know each other and tear down some walls that are what I consider to be perceptions. So I like this. I especially got excited when you did the leadership competency. I mean, I said, I'm looking at him, so I'm glad I'm not a principal.
Well, one of the things that I failed to mention this, but this was really great, and this was an addition that Ron Gorman really asked us to do, and I think it really has paid off. We, at our last one, because we actually had students as a part of the interview process, and they took it very seriously. Yeah. They had very good questions of the candidates, and because it was going to be their principal, they were elementary school kids, but they were really good, weren't they?
They were very, very well.
You guys gave elementary kids the opportunity to evaluate some principals?
We sure did, and absolutely, they got a chance to ask questions, and they had good questions, and they took it very seriously. And really, what we were trying to look at was how do you interact with students? How do you,
wish I did that in the 60s.
Feel about, how do you come across? Do they like you? And we all know that that's important.
Yeah, I wrote down student and parent, that interaction, because obviously that's going to be a big part of
and parents too
life.
were on our committee. I failed to mention that we had parents on this last one. We did parents were very important. And go ahead.
To that point, one of the things that we did prior to interviews was we conducted a community and parent survey. Asking them what is it that they would like to see in their new building leader. And we took that information and developed what we called a candidate profile. And that helped to guide the initial decisions around vetting resumes before we even got to the phone conferencing, because the community had spoken loud and clear about what kind of leader they'd like to see in the building. So that helped us to establish, as I said, that profile. So very interactive on all levels, from the building to the outside community, partnerships the school is involved with, and then also students.
I know that, I was reading some of the competencies in regards to like student behavior, much of, the dialogues with teachers, sometimes with parents, is student behavior and, acting in class and those kinds of things that now has to be taken to a different level. In terms of the competencies, I put it under fostering culture, but
Yes.
what do you see as a big part of what a principal would handle many of the, because that's typically what you get hit with is, Johnny's got to go over here because, or something like that.
Well, truthfully, it's really woven throughout the competencies. If you think of improving teaching and learning, there's nothing better to address behavior than engaging learners in rigorous work. So it's woven in there. It's about leading the system. You're correct, it is about fostering the culture. It's about an individual's personal leadership, so it's really woven throughout, which is part of why I'm here this morning, is Ms. Pitts has sort of highlighted for you the what. I want to talk a little bit about the how. And if you could turn your page in your document, I want to share really the next step of talent development and career growth, and that is leading the GRPS way. So the work of the executive directors and assistant superintendents through the work that Ms. Pitts just highlighted has established leading the GRPS way, which is a very rigorous professional development for building leaders. And really keeping in the forefront of our mind, we want to create professional leaders, obviously. We want to create knowledgeable leaders around the competencies. As Ms. Pitts highlighted, every one of us falls somewhere in a continuum on each of those competencies. So developing that work, but also developing leaders who have a heart for equity.
Right.
And also student achievement being the hallmark. So leading the GRPS way, to give you a high-level understanding, is a PD opportunity that happens for building leaders monthly on Wednesday evenings, which is actually happening tomorrow night. And on the next page, you'll see the work is divided into really two portions of the evening. The first portion of the evening is a whole group presentation, and that really is a PK through 12th grade. So building leaders from across the system are sitting at tables together. And if you look across the chart, you'll see each month we are focusing on one of the leadership competencies to develop, again, movement on that continuum. The first half is whole group, but the second half is designed in what we're calling a community of practice. So individuals have identified a common theory of action or a common problem of practice that they're involved with really active research around. So they get together in their groups and they work on whatever their specific issue is. So if you notice, in September, we focused on personal leadership. So the intent of that evening was really fostering that sense of urgency around equity and excellence, just beginning the conversation. And if you look across, each one takes those competencies and builds upon that work. From supporting equity results in October, to identifying the needs and figuring out what leadership practice I might need to address as a building leader. In January, learning in the classroom. Actually identifying the needs and figuring out what to do about it. Tomorrow night, you see, we're looking at leading the system and fostering the culture. So identifying and implementing specific improvement strategies to utilize in the building. And I don't want to give too much away about April and May because they're yet to come. But really getting people engaged in professional development that we like to think is embedded around the work they do each day. And the feedback that we're getting from building leaders has been tremendous around the value of sitting around a table with your colleagues who represent everything from pre-K all the way to high school and everything in between. It gives individuals a sense of trajectory of where students are headed, what expectations and competencies students need to have to move forward, as well as what leaders need to have.
Oh, that's nice.
Questions about leading the GRPS way?
No, you're leading it.
Good.
And, to that point, I really want to focus that the leadership groups, all of the executive directors are sitting down, developing the plan, implementing the plan, and presenting it to the principals with the assistance of Mr. Lemons, or Dr. Lemons, actually. All right, well, we're going to very quickly talk about the Harvard University Leadership Development. And this is a very high-level overview because this is a program that's just beginning in the development stages. But we want to provide a systematic way, for developing leadership across a wide spectrum of the system, from the superintendent, board of education, cabinet members, central office, school-based administrators, teachers, parents, even our association. developing a goal of taking this group, a small group of staff, and building the muscle to then take the work out across the system, to really lead that transformational change. It's focusing on consistent quality teaching and learning across the system, pre-K through 12, and then 3 to 5 different offerings are going to be selected for specific role groups that best meet their learning needs, so that we're trying to differentiate even with adults, given the role that they may hold in the district. So while that's a very high-level look, there's going to be much more information developed as we move forward, and we're excited to be able to bring that back to you at a future meeting.
I was impressed with reading this when I got it, and I was just outdone, because a lot of times we don't hear everything that's being done. And there's some concrete things that are happening that I think the public really needs to know about.
I agree.
And so I think you're on the right track, and I think that as a board member, I wanted to be made clear that I'm concerned about our teachers, our principals. I believe in education. I believe in the education of our children, and I think Grand Rapids Public Schools is on the right track with this program.
Thank you.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I think often when our principals talk to our parents, PTOs, whatever, really, if they knew some of this, they would have a whole lot of confidence that behind the scene, a lot of things are happening to that person that's up in front of them, really is getting the support that they need for that school to be effective, and it trickles to its staff, and then obviously students and parents. So this is really exciting. I mean, they need to know that, just to know that they can have confidence that the leader that is there is the person that's gonna help that school. So thank you.
And I like the fact that everybody's communicating, everybody's collaborating, everybody's talking about what is important, what needs to be done. And I think that over a period of time, that would be a strong impact upon the kids. So there is some relationship building continuously going on. So I like this. Now, you say you meet Wednesday night? You got
Yes,
something
sir.
going on tonight? And it's going to be where?
At the Grand Rapids University.
Grand Rapids University? Okay. I'm going to stick my head in the door.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. The 5-year national evaluation?
Morning, Pastor Mooney.
Good morning, Doctor.
Matias,
How are you? How are both of
Lieutenant
you?
Neal, cabinet members in the audience, thanks for having us. I'm Michael Pasco, principal at City High Middle School. On the right of me is Charlotte Vandervliet, our IB coordinator. Today we've been asked to present on our 5-year evaluation report. It was a site visit that took place by the IB, 3 site visitors back in November 6 and 7. It was a 2-day evaluation visit. Just to put some background on these evaluations, for any IB school that offers an IB program every 5 years, there's a visit to the school. A report is then sent to the IB on how well or how effective the implementation process is going. For City, this was our first 5 years of implementation for the middle years program. We currently offer 2 programs, the MYP as well as the diploma program in the junior and senior year, which there'll be a site visit in 2016 coming up. So just to put some background on it, City had implemented the MYP first and then built upon that with the diploma program. The visit itself, the 2-day visit, 3 site visitors come, they talk to all stakeholders. So we had groups of parents, we had Mr. Gorman, Mrs. Evans, Dr. Falb, representing the board in the district. They talked to students, and then each individual department as well as the leadership team at the school. They visited classrooms. So pretty thorough 2-day visit. I was on one myself last March. I'm going to one in Lincoln Park High School in April in Chicago on the other side of the table. So it kind of helps us as we conduct the visits ourselves and we go through and participate in those that are evaluating our program. It just helps strengthen our program and our implementation process. So it starts with this self-study questionnaire. Charlie and I, along with our staff at City, completed this approximately a year ago. It gets sent to the IB, the 3 site visitors, approximately 6 months prior to the visit, so they have time reviewing our documents. It's a pretty lengthy review process and reflection on the implementation, as well as many documents that need to be uploaded to the IB site. And then a visit is scheduled and then conducted over 2 days. Sometimes there'll be 3-day visits if a school is asking for the MYP and the DP, or a PYP and a MYP to be evaluated at the same time. So that's the nature of the site visits. Up here we have the self-study questionnaire. The visiting team, they look at these particular standards and practices. They look at philosophy, the organization, so the leadership and structure, the resources and support of the school, the curriculum, so they look at planning, the curriculum, teaching and learning, and then the assessment. So that's what they focused in on as they came in. They look for 3 different things: commendations, so things that are going well within the program. They recognize that and they note the evidence behind it. They also note any recommendations, so areas that we can focus in on the next 5-year cycle. And then the most important would be the matters to be addressed. So these are things that are significant issues at the school and are things that could jeopardize authorization of that particular program. And I will say, I know it's in the last slide, but there were no matters to be addressed at City. This was our first 5-year evaluation, so for us, we were pretty proud of that. There were many things that we knew, being early in implementation of a program, that we need improvement. And I mean, it's with any new program. So there were some things that came up that we just knew were going to be on their radar, and we were very thankful that there were no matters to be addressed. A few recommendations, but quite a few commendations as well. So we'll go through those today. We'll highlight, and Ms. Vandervliet can jump in as well. What we did was we highlighted in black, you'll see any commendation, and then any blue would be a recommendation. So basically what we need to do for these recommendations that we're about to outline is put together a plan of action, which Charlie and I have already kind of started mapping out, and just figuring out from not only ourselves and our staff, but from other colleagues. We lean on a lot of folks in the IB schools in Michigan, and now that I'm in the IB Education Network, it's very easy now to go and collaborate with folks to get answers to how is this being implemented in your school at a high level of fidelity, and then making that a reality in our program. So right off the bat, practice 2 was about the governing body, the administrative pedagogical leadership team. They noted that our strategy for promoting the MYP and the school community focused actions to reach the various stakeholders. So in terms of communicating to families with our IB parent nights, guiding kids through the program, and such, reporting to the district and working with our executive director on the needs of the program. They noted that as a strength. This was a recommendation about supporting students in their mother tongue and their host country language. This is, you'll see, there's probably 3 or 4 recommendations that speak to very similar things around this particular topic. So this is one that we're going to have to do some research on and figure out exactly what this looks like. So the recommendation here is the school should investigate strategies to further emphasize the importance of language learning. Although we offer French, Chinese, and Spanish, what they want to see is for those that we serve outside of those 3 languages, how are we supporting them in terms of supporting their mother tongue? Again, some things that we know that we can do. There's other things that relate to maybe our media center and other things that we can bring into the classroom to help that particular recommendation.
Real quick, what other languages?
We have
Besides
Chinese, Spanish, and French.
Those are the ones we offer, but we do
Right.
have several families that have different languages that are spoken at home. Farsi is actually one.
okay.
I mean, we have a wide range. All schools are asked to develop a language policy in which the schools figure out ways to facilitate the learning of those mother tongue language as well as the language that school is taught in. So it tends to be an issue at a lot of schools where they're not sure how to do that. So we're going to go back and review our language policy and look at different ways that we can offer supports to those students so that they are still, focusing on their mother tongue and host language as well as developing their skills at school.
And students that don't have a mother tongue?
Their mother tongue would be English.
We're good
Just
there.
want to hear
yeah.
you say that.
5A speaks to that, but it speaks specifically to how the media center and the library resources can support students. So we have some ideas there as to how that could be accommodation on the next visit. Another one that came up was the assessment policy and just the inter-rater reliability of our teachers utilizing IB rubrics, communicating the IB grades to our parents and to our students. The MYP started a new chapter, they called it the MYP Next Chapter, and this was the first year that schools were to implement it. So things had changed since the beginning of implementation at City over the last 5 years until, fall of 2014. So all of our teachers, whether or not they've been trained on the old middle years program, have had to make a switch. They had to make a switch with a new unit planner. They had to make a transfer over to utilizing new rubrics and new level descriptors in terms of the mark schemes and the bands that kids shoot for in terms of standards. So that's why that recommendation came up. Plus there's, we've hired 6, 7 new staff members over the last couple of years with some growth moving into the new building. So we're trying to put everyone on the same page, and that's what that recommendation talks to. They did note that we were headed in the right direction, and that a lot of things were moving in the right direction in terms of the assessment policy and practices, but we want to see more inter-rater reliability and make sure everyone's on the same page when it comes to assessment. Commendation governing body has funding from a local foundation. Obviously, over the last several years, the Wegge Foundation has been generous with a grant every year that has helped with training, some resources, but particularly around the professional development of our staff, which has been tremendous. Again, with this new MYP Next Chapter, we do have to retrain our staff, and usually what they say is we have to train at least one person within that subject area. Doesn't have to be the whole department, and then the leadership team. So Charlie and I, in particularly, I'm considered a head of school in IB world, and Charlie's the IB coordinator. Another recommendation was to, again, resources around the languages offered by the school, so more support for Chinese, French, and Spanish within our own media center. Recommendation, we should further develop the library multimedia resources to ensure that they have a central role in the implementation of the IB and the MYP. One of the big differences here, I guess, in our district versus other IB schools, either that we have visited or talked to, is the librarian is a certified teacher, and they help in terms of guiding lessons around research, citation, all that kind of stuff in terms of leading kids through the program and the writing process. In our district, in larger districts in the U.S., we have paraprofessionals that may or may not be skilled in terms of doing that. So that's where that recommendation comes up, is how does that media center and the library play a central role in supporting kids through the program. And I think we could come up with some things in terms of that, given the circumstance around paraprofessionals conducting the library and facilitating that position. Here's one around collaborative planning and a 45-minute first and third Monday staff meeting that we agreed upon this year. Going to half-day professional development didn't really help this. We have a master schedule that is impossible to put common planning. So if Charlie and I were both teaching English, there's really no time in the day for us to carve out time unless the administrative team, which we have, has allowed for subs to come in and have them do unit planning, assessment conversations, and looking at data analysis. But usually that takes place with having the pause in the classroom with the sub, and then coming together with a collaborative planning day. So we've lost some time this year, so we knew that this one going in was going to be at least a recommendation, because we simply just don't have the time to come together. I guess our big focus is, with the time that we do have, is making it intense and intentional, making it purposeful, and making sure it's what we need and what the staff needs in terms of coming together. This one's about horizontal and vertical alignment. We've done a lot of this throughout, but you just need more time to do it. So whether it's the vertical skill set as kids go through the continuum, or whether it's that horizontal planning across a grade level to see what kids need within a similar age group.
Yeah, IB emphasizes the importance of both. So looking as you go through the subject areas, So we try to backwards map all the way from our diploma program subject areas all the way down to our 7th grade. And then they also encourage planning across the grade levels so that we can see commonalities and then hopefully eventually develop interdisciplinary units where teachers are using common subject areas, within their own fortes, so.
In terms of scheduling, is it because of the master scheduling process that's centralized, or?
There's lots to it. One of the main things is that we, in the middle years program, kids have to take 8 classes. In the diploma program, kids are taking up to 7 classes. With having both the middle years program and the diploma program, when you put together the master schedule, you have some teachers with a foot in the diploma program and a foot in the MYP.
Seen that.
So you have a conflicting middle years and a higher level schedule where there's crossover. So with the instructional hours, with the work day, with the planning GREA contract in terms of the planning hours that they are obligated to get, it just, with all those dynamics, and we've thought outside the box quite a bit in terms of this. We did change the schedule over the last couple of years to make it more conducive and make it more favorable, but at the end of the day, we're still short in terms of the time that we'd like to come together and work on some of these things. But we'll just have to be a little more intense and intentional as we move forward, and I think that's what C1 here, Practice 2, is talking about, is to ensure that there's clear goals and timelines. So given the amount of time within a school year, how are we going to map out all the needs and in terms of staff, professional development, and some of these recommendations that we have got here on the report to address as we move through the school year? How do we cover all that given the time?
And that's not taking into account extracurricular, so band, orchestra, right?
Meaning what?
In terms of scheduling and the rigor of the IB program.
Yeah, I mean, to Reverend Matthias's point, I mean, there's just lots to the program. We've thought outside the box in terms of how do we get kids everything that they would like to have. We developed a 0 hour before
Right.
the school day even starts, and yes, they do have a lot of extracurricular that doesn't necessarily play into something like this, and it's just more demands again on staff in terms of the bell rings, and a lot of the performing arts and visual arts folks have a lot of commitments as well. That's what you were alluding
It's
to.
nice to have all brain power, but I know that kids need to also be creative and let off steam.
Sure.
And so if there's not that somewhat of a balance where that can happen often, it leads to a lot of burnout, I'm sure, with teachers and certainly with students with that rigor, so that's why.
I think Practice 3 talks about the vertical and horizontal planning. We did have a commendation around collaborative planning. It says that teachers systematically address the development of the IB learner profile. Those are 10 characteristics that are at the heart of IB, being reflective, being an inquirer, being knowledgeable, caring, principled, along those natures. Our teachers build that into their planning. And you see that when you walk into the classrooms. We also have built that into our PBIS initiative, which is a district initiative around positive behavior. Another commendation that teachers are committed to having a scope and sequence from grades 7 through 12, from the middle years to the diploma program. So our written curriculum, we were very excited about this because there's been a lot of time and effort put into this, a lot of planning, and we've got quite a few commendations around our written curriculum and us being on the right page in terms of meeting the Common Core, but also advanced planning our units so that they're inquiry-based and teachers are acting more as facilitators than direct instructors. Another one here that we've implemented an 8th-hour block, which is our EPIC courses. They're focused around sustainable education, which is a big theme for the IB as well. The school has aligned their program to incorporate CAS, so we do creativity, action, and service hour requirements, both in the middle years and the diploma program. So this allows students to go beyond just the service learning portion. Subject groups frequently include learning experiences that provide reflection on human commonality, diversity, multiple perspectives. The heart of the IB is putting yourself in other folks' shoes around the world and looking at issues that may affect us all in different ways. And that was definitely something that they had saw as they visited classrooms. Another recommendation was for our teachers to visit the Online Curriculum Center. It's known as the OCC. Teachers around the world in IB programs will upload lessons, videos. This is where all of the new subject guides and assessment materials would be. So they actually can track the amount of times that our teachers log in, and so can Charlie. And some teachers find it helpful, others don't. Others have built networks within their trainings, and they lean on them versus going into the OCC. But it is a great resource for our teachers to tap into anything that's needed in terms of the written curriculum. We're also looking at revising our school policies around assessment
And language.
and language policy, obviously with the mother tongue concern in terms of their recommendation. We need to find a way to build that in and make that common understanding amongst our staff. Staff should further develop the use of global context for inquiry-based learning. Global context is one of those items within the new unit planner that was just released within the last year. So we knew that as we're transferring all our old units to the new unit planner, this is just a new concept with these global contexts within the IB. So we're on our way. It's just, this is a brand new piece of looking at how we outline our curriculum. Students are encouraged to be open-minded and inquirers across the disciplines. That was another commendation. I'm not sure how we're doing on time, Mrs. Evans, but another recommendation was to further adapt written communication to all stakeholders to address the diversity of student language needs. Again, it's talking about for those other than their mother tongue. And teachers should further adapt learning experience to support language development of students. So again,
Does that also apply to parents? So in terms of parents understanding what is required of their student?
I think that's part of it. I also think on our end, like for example, in our work zone this year, we hired a Spanish, a Chinese, and French tutor, so to even support, further support the languages that we do offer, not just those outside of their mother tongue in terms of that we don't necessarily offer as a program. So I think it's a little bit of both, and communicating that out to families.
Cool.
Here's a big one that we knew was coming. We all know we don't have all the bells and whistles at City in terms of technology. And so they did note, I was surprised this wasn't a matters to be addressed, but providing a variety of technology resources that would allow the teachers to better meet the aims and objectives of the program. So it's just something that I know in time, hopefully, is addressed at City in terms of the technological needs. So there wasn't so much we can do about that in-house right now. And then accommodations, students at City High Middle School choose this school over others because of the climate and belief systems. And I think that was a very important commendation for us in terms of what they saw and what they heard in terms of student perception of the program.
Well, what were your teachers' perceptions?
I think when they interviewed, a lot of this stuff is coming out of the teachers, conversations around the collaborative planning, not so much the mother tongue, but the assessment policy. Did they dig into, in terms of perception of culture and climate? I would go on record to say that our teachers that come to City typically want to stay there. They're passionate about what they do. Again, over the last couple of years, we brought in some significant teacher leaders that have done an amazing job and have helped change that culture and being able to lead this new adaptive change process. Because this program does call for a little bit more in terms of teacher effort, teacher planning, and workload. So if you are not passionate about what you do, it's a difficult work schedule for you.
Absolutely.
And during this process, they actually don't let us, it's closed doors, they're in there. I actually got removed a couple times, but, they talk to the teachers and they want it to be a very honest process.
So this one here, just to wrap up these two, it's around MYP assessment, and we utilize the IB rubrics, which is a very different scale in terms of a traditional rubric. So if a rubric's out of 8, a 4 out of 8 is not a 50%.
Right.
Okay, so we've had to change the habits of mind in terms of how our teachers think around the grading process. And so this one speaks to, okay, so how do families know how their students are reaching top marks within the criteria and the level descriptors of a rubric, but also how is that communicated given the district has a cumulative grade book? All right, we're not a standards-based district. So how can we do that on the teacher or the school end to say, here's the IB grade, this is what your students get, before you see the percentage in the grade book? Because all our families are really seeing now is a grade book, but they don't see all of the work that's leading up with the rubric and what those level descriptors mean. So we need to do a better job of communicating that to all stakeholders. Again, another one about the achievement levels according to the MYP assessment. This is all around assessment and reporting system. So again, we have some structural challenges in terms of how we report grades, but we have some good ideas as to how to go about that. So in summary, again, all standards, so the standards and practices, all of the standards we showed satisfactory development, which was great. We received no matters to be addressed. Again, I did a site evaluation last year in a school, not to mention its name, on the southeast side that has been in implementation for many, many years, and we walked away as site visitors with at least 3 to 4 matters to be addressed in that program. So we were very excited that this was our first MYP site evaluation. There was nothing of real significance in terms of something that we needed to address immediately. And again, we're able to recognize these things. We knew a lot of them going in, what the issues were going to be, collaborative planning. We knew assessment was going to be a concern, knowing that we were just rolling over to a new MYP curriculum model. Charlie and I, along with our staff and the district, we do need to come up with an action plan, even though these are recommendations and they're not things that we need to immediately address. We know that if we can address them within the short period time, that we can improve the program right away. So we'll be looking to do that with our instructional leadership team as well as our collective staff in terms of next steps. And then get ready for our diploma program one in 2016.
Which will actually be able to use a lot of the information that was gleaned during this evaluation visit towards our diploma program evaluation visit, so.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. This is awesome. I know how I've had 4 of my kids go through city, and trust me, we do a lot as parents to help them achieve. So,
Absolutely.
great job. Thanks.
Thank you. Yeah, and thanks to the district. They've been very supportive in terms of, looking at the needs, not so much the wants, but the needs of the program and being there along the way. And that means everything to the school and to those that work in it, that it's a collective effort. And to see a report that we got from this, it just really validated all the effort, like you said, Reverend Matias, of all stakeholders, families, students, the district, as well as our staff. So we appreciate all that you guys do on your end to help what we do.
And I know district-wide, a lot of teachers seriously recommend students when they see a bright student, regardless of where they're at, middle school-wise, they're saying to parents, they got to apply here or there because they're capable, and then they help parents understand, in terms of the work that they have to do as parents, what it's going to take for their child to either go to city or high-performing school. So I know that, broadly speaking, the teachers are definitely recommending students that they see have a future or are smart or capable. Sure. And families are looking for that for their students because that's their future. And so to appreciate that, I know teachers are doing that as well in different schools. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Mrs. Evans, is there any comments you would like to make? Or?
No, Pastor Moody.
Okay. So we don't have any action items, so at this point in time, I'm going to say meeting adjourned. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming out this morning.
Thank you.